I don't think I armed that quickly enough, you know. Approach is armed, isn't it? Yeah. Well, now what? Well, that's annoying, isn't it? Okay. Hello everybody, welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today we're going to be doing the return leg from the previous video that I did in the PMDG 737-800. I've done a little bit more learning since then, and made sure that I know how to go through procedures properly, because for the first time in one of my videos, I'm going to be using checklists, and I've got these off Fly UK Aero. So thank you very much for them for uploading this. I have noticed one little thing that we'll get to in a little bit, but there's 2 sheets here of checklists, and I've really been trying to get this right. I know that you're supposed to use checklists, and obviously a lot of you have told me to do that. My friend Pete, that's been in a few videos as well, has said hallelujah to the fact that I'm finally going to be using them. So hopefully you're watching this, Pete, and you know that I'm going to be a good boy and get this right. We're starting from Shannon. That's where we were landing at last time, and obviously I got off at the wrong taxiway and so on. It's 7:20 in the morning. I'm not doing this on VATSIM, by the way. This is just going to be me testing offline. 7:20 in the morning, because the Shannon flight to Stansted, which is where we're going today, arrives, or usually departs actually, sorry, at 10 to 8 in the morning. So we're going to load into this. We are Ryanair 902 today, which I have on my clipboard here. I know it's my VATSIM thing, but I did not get our stand number. I do not have scenery at Shannon, but that's fine. I'll just write down. I think it was it stand 34 or 32? It's pretty much complete pitch black darkness actually. Now it will be on like this. You'll see the aircraft switched on, but then when we load in, it will turn itself off because we have it as a cold and dark state ready to go, and my goodness me, it's actually pitch black darkness. So like I say, I'm using checklists today, so I'm going to go through this bit by bit. Once I start doing this, it will be a completely uncut sort of start-up of this aircraft, but oh my god, it's actually pitch black darkness. How am I meant to see? Isn't there a thing like alt and... see, look at this, I'm very good, aren't I? So let's go to alt and 2, and what we're going to do then is get the first thing on the list, which is actually the parking brake set. I'm going to make sure that that is... Right, so that's off, parking brake is on. Okay, cool. So we'll look up here then, and the first thing is battery power, which is guard closed. That should kick everything into life. That's good. Standby power has its guard closed as well, and then the left center fuel pump as required. Let's go for the left aft fuel pump, which will start putting a bit of fuel in, and then we'll bring the APU on, which is down here. That's on, and then start. Get that APU started up. You've got to wait for a second for that to come on. And then you can flick these gen switches here. So what this, sorry, the inner ones, sorry, not the outer ones. So what that does is, like I've said before, you have to manually change the buses in a Boeing aircraft rather than on the Airbus where it sort of just does it for you. We'll actually hop outside for a sec and just listen. That's the APU starting up now. So in a moment we should be able to change those buses over and get power. It's very quiet actually from in here, so you can't really hear it coming on at all. I'm going to try it now and just see. Actually, no, it comes up on a screen down here, does it not? Usually I think the screens come on when the power is available from the APU. Pretty sure that's how it works anyway. Let's try it now. Yep, there we go. So all of it is coming on, which is nice to have. Position lights we're going to put to steady. That's already on steady. A logo light as required, we'll pop that on. And then the cabin lights as required, it says. Now if we go to panel brightness here, that's all beautiful. There's lighting here as well. There we go, main panel, and then even on this panel too, you can get the lighting on there. So got our lights on. We don't need the torch on our head anymore, because we can see everything. We can see the lovely, lovely, horrible overhead in the Boeing 737. It's very, very military. So we have our cabin lights as required, emergency exit signs, guard closed, so they are sorted. We then have the passenger signs, which we want on. On, Chaz. There we go. Packs, we want to auto. It's over here on the right. This probably wasn't the best set of conditions. Actually, there is a dome light, isn't there? I think it's up here. Yeah, there we go. Let's get the dome light on so you can see a little bit more of this. IRS mode selectors, actually, we need to go back up there because they're going to the nav position. I always see this go into heading STS as well, by the way. So I'm going to leave, put that on, despite not being told to on this checklist. Then we go to FMC, which is down here. So let's go to FS actions. I always tend to get rid of the chocks and everything first, get rid of those just because I don't like having the stairs next to us. In terms of the passengers and so on today, I'm not really sure what we're going to do about them lot, to be honest with you. Let's get the data from SimBrief. That's going to bring that into the aircraft. Not sure about getting passengers on, actually. Not sure how we actually do that in this plane. That's something I've not done yet, you know. I've only just realised. Anyway, we would have requested flight plan clearance at this point. We need to then go to the menu, go to FMC, position in it, click on this, put it in there. That is done. I don't need the checklist for now. So we go to the route and we do flight plan request, and that's bringing it in from SimBrief, which is then going to be telling us what we're going to be doing. So we can go to flight plan request, you click that, and you wait a second. And then it comes up with load, so you can load that in. Route uplink, loading, and then it'll come up with activate. So you click that, execute that, and it is all good. So we've got our route. Climb. Our cruise altitude today, let me check the charts, is 35,000 feet. Flight level 350. Descent, we don't need to worry about that yet. We can forecast the winds later on, which is very important. If we go to legs, then it's going to have Abagu and the departure that we're on today. Let me grab you the charts. Oh, it's always behind that stick. These are the charts for today. So we're on the Abag 3 Bravo departure to Abagu. And then we are on the arrival is Siri 1 Lima. We're going to be landing on... Oh yeah, we need to put the approach in because we're going to be landing ILS runway 22. Laurel. There it is. Cool. What else was I going to look at? Oh yeah, we need to do that and check what stand we're on, just so I've got it definitely written down. I thought it was 34. Yes, I've written 34 down. He's so good. He's so good. And yeah. We're going to then get the departure and arrival in. So there is the... I've literally just had it open. Come on, Chaz. I'm going to pop this over on my left screen, though. It's the Abag 3 Bravo, runway 24. We're going to execute that. And then we're going to go to our arrival. Siri 1 Lima. For ILS runway 22. Laurel. Bang. And that goes from cell to act. So that means it's active at this point in time. In terms of other stuff, we need init request. Again, it's something that you've got to wait for. You can do the 0 fuel weight, actually, and pop that in there. You just click it twice. Init request has been sorted, so it'll say load in a minute, I imagine. There you go. Pop that in. So reserves are 4.7 today. The planned fuel that we want on board, the block fuel is 6,087 kilos. So what we want to do is put in 6.1. Insufficient fuel? Well, no. It's not. Or is it in pounds? Oh, it's in pounds instead of kilos. Why is that doing that? I wonder if you have to set it up in here. PMDG setup, aircraft, displays. Okay. There's a lot of stuff on here, isn't there? Didn't realise you could set all this up. Eyebrow windows. Oh, if you know what they are, then yeah, hopefully you're as excited about that as me. We're not going to put them on here because we don't need them. However, I think that's absolutely awesome. Turns out I've skipped past it. I think it's on page 9. There you go. Metric imperial units, kilos. Sound. My bad. So now we need to go into init ref. Yeah, so plan fuel, it thinks we're putting 2.8 tons in. I did think that 4.7 was a lot of reserves, actually. So we're putting 6.1 on the planned fuel. There we go. It's not going to moan at me now. So when you go to init ref, let's go to index, let's go to takeoff. We're going to go flaps 5 for takeoff. We've got our V-speeds already in, which is great. And as far as I know, that is the FMC set for now. If there's anything else or something that I've missed, then we'll come back to that. Back to the checklist we go. We have then transponder, which needs to be set. We're going to be on 2000 today, because that is the sort of standard code when you're not doing anything, effectively. I don't know if that works. Put that to TA only. IAS max speed set, heading takeoff runway. So we need to be doing runway heading here. We're going to be on runway 24, so we'll put that to 240. We need initial altitude set, so we need to check our charts for that. Charts are over here, already open. Check our departure. Above 3,300 feet, basically, at Adaru, and we're going to Abagu. So it's only 3,500 I'm going to go for. And then once we've gone past that point, then we can just climb all the way up to our cruise altitude at 35,000 Flight altitude and landing altitude. They need to be up here. We're going to be flying at 35,000 feet. And then we need to check for landing altitude, which we need to look at our charts here. 548, so we're going to go 550. That goes mighty quickly. Then we put the flight directors on. LNAV as required, VNAV as required. I'm going to click them both, and hopefully they'll come on when we get set. The Barrow, the QNH is 986. That's quite low, actually. 986 on that. That's just changing down here in this corner. We need to get our minimums in Barrow, actually. We're going to pop that on there. So, like I say, it's 548. So we can get that set up on there. It's a lot of scrolling to do. That's a big amount of scrolling. Okay, that's in. Altimeter ref, yeah, HPA, yeah, sorry, I've already done that. Auto brake to RTO, which is on there. Comms radio set, don't need to worry about that. And doors are closed, so we'll check outside the aircraft for that. As you see, still very dark, but the doors are most definitely closed. So we'll have some lights on in just a minute, but that is the pre-flight checklist complete. At this point, we'd be calling for all of our clearances and pushback and so on. So what I'm going to do next is pre-plan the pushback and get us ready to move. We're going to turn and have the tail to the right, nose to the left. I'll show you our taxi route in just a sec. Not a clue what that is doing there, but we're going to push onto this little junction here. This is what our taxi route is going to look like, everybody. So we're going to push back from stand 3-4 onto that little junction there, and then we're going to go this way, staying on, which taxiway is this? Alpha, and then go on Delta 1, Delta 2, and then all the way to the end on Delta 2. We're going to hold at holding point Delta 2 as well, and then we'll line up and crack on. We're not going to turn around and use all the runway there, we're just going to go and turn onto it. Right then, we'll request pushback. Now is the time. And we're going to go through our before start checklist. We're going to release the parking brake. Before start checklist then is auto throttle to arm. Oh, we need to put the other flight director on as well, just remembered that. We need left, right and centre fuel pumps, which are these three. They're going to come on straight away. Electronics, hydraulics pumps as well, those two on. Anti-collision light comes on at this stage, and then the parking brake should be set, but ground equipment is removed and the engine area is clear. So we're happy with that. Also, I mentioned before there's something in this checklist that I needed to talk to you about. It doesn't tell you to put APU bleed on for some reason. So we've got APU bleed coming on just now. And then what we're going to do is turn the packs off before we then start our engines. We're going to click hold and let's push back. Right then, let's get these engines on, shall we? So engine 1 start switch goes into ground. We're going to keep our eye on this screen down here. I don't know what that was about. This number builds up, we get that to 20. And then we're going to introduce fuel with this little switch down here. Let's start engine 1. Some brilliant noises coming from that, isn't there? Some very brilliant noises. I think I'm going to go up here now, actually. Nope, all the way up, excuse me. And we're going to turn the dome light off. That little switch that you heard there actually was the engine start switch in the middle going back to off, because that one is done with. So then we're going to turn engine 2 start switch to GRD, which is ground. And then again, that number in the middle is going to start building up to 20. And then we're going to introduce some fuel and get engine number 2 started. Okay, so it looks like we've got a good start on both engines. I didn't put the parking brake back on yet, but as you've just heard, I've just done that. So before taxi checklist then, we need to go to generators 1 and 2. So we need to go that one and that one. Oh, that's off. Put it on, Chaz. Probe heat coming up here for these two. Oh, we didn't do window heat earlier, which for some reason I thought we'd already done. Weren't we supposed to? Oh, I was supposed to do that with your damper earlier, so I've missed those. It's all good having a checklist, isn't it, if you're going to miss things out. What an absolute genius this boy is, everybody. But anyway, Pro Pete's on now. Wing anti-ice as required, engine anti-ice as required. Packs back into the auto position, so we'll put them into the middle. You can hear the air from them come back on. Isolation valve goes down to auto, or up to auto. Yep, auto in the middle. And then APU bleed comes off, even though it doesn't ever tell you to turn it on. And the engine start switches into continuous. Flaps as required. We're going to go flaps 5 for takeoff today. I'm going to put this dome light back on just for a sec, just so you can see what's going on down here. So this is the flaps. So I'm using the Thrustmaster TCA Captain X pack for the Airbus. There's another little conflict between this aircraft and that I'm going to tell you about in a bit. But if I go to flaps 1 in the Airbus, we get 2 degrees, and I want 5 flaps. There we go. So the flaps are going to come down. So you have to manually click that. It said verify takeoff speeds a moment ago, so let's just go into init index takeoff. Oh, takeoff speeds are different. Right, very interesting. So V1 is at 146 today. Continuing the before taxi checklist, the flight controls are free and correct. They refresh in a bit of a slow rate, but they're all good from what I can see. I'm using the stick today, not a yoke. I don't have a yoke because I hate them. And we need the elevator trim for takeoff as well. So we need to go back into init into the index, takeoff. Center of gravity is 24.8. I think that's what it means anyway. And the trim is 5.13. This is the trim wheel, so you need to get this arrow to the number that you want. It takes quite a few spins to get it to 5.1, so we'll give it a sec. Once that black line gets just past 5, we'll go for about that. That should do us. And then we need to turn our lower display unit off, which is this here. You're not meant to have that on, so we turn it off with this little knob here. And away it goes. We'll pop that back into legs. Do we get LNAV and VNAV on now? Yes, we do. Okay, so now we're all started. They're on. Flight director's on. You can see LNAV and VNAV are sort of lined up there on the screen. And we need the taxi lights on and the runway turn-off lights as required. So taxi light on. We'll turn the dome light off here in the cockpit as well. And we should be able to get taxiing. It's mighty noisy out there. Let's get that parking brake off, shall we? And let's get taxiing. So we'll go up to about 35% thrust and just let it gradually coast forward. We could probably turn the brightness down on some of these screens, actually, to be fair. I do enjoy how this aircraft feels on the ground, you know. It's a really nice aircraft to taxi. Not sure we need some of the flooding lights like those. Now it says that the the sort of maximum taxi speed of the 737-800 is about 20 knots. And from what I've heard before, it's usually 30 knots in a straight line. And then you're talking maybe 15 knots when you go around a corner. But in this, like I say, it turns sooner than the Airbus does. Like the sort of reaction time of the nose wheel is brilliant, but it's so much more understeery when you're doing like 15 knots like we are doing now. The knots figure for what speed you're taxiing at just comes up down here in this corner. There's a lovely sunrise over there here at Shannon. This is like, yeah, it's understeering, so I have to just give it a dab of brakes there just to slow it down. And now we're going to taxi all the way straight down the end here. As you can see, it is 7:48, so we've made pretty good time actually in terms of departing here. Usually your sort of pushback time is the departure time. I have sped up the taxi slightly here, and we're now doing 27 knots, so I've just come off the throttle a little bit. I'm not sure how you're supposed to do your takeoff config on this, actually. That sounds really daft to say, but for the last couple of times that I've flown this, I think I've flown it 3 times since the previous video, but I've not done a complete flight yet. I've always done sort of bits of one, if that makes sense. And I could never figure out how to get takeoff config to not beep at me on takeoff, which I find weird. Not sure if I'm putting the if it needs me to verify the V speeds or something, and maybe I wasn't doing that, because that was the first time I've done that and it's been different to what I originally put in. I'm looking forward to getting up above the clouds though and seeing what sort of sunrise we've got on our hands, because it's going to be very pretty up there. Thanks as well to my good friend Drew, who's been helping me with some of the intricacies of this aircraft. He calls it the tractor because he flies the Airbus A320 and A320neo for EasyJet, but he's really been helping me out with getting used to this aircraft and how it behaves. And thank you to those of you in the YouTube comments as well that always give me feedback and advice on how to fly these aircraft, and just the again, the little intricacies of getting to know them. It's great fun to learn, and I think that's why I enjoy this so much. I'll be really proud of myself and really happy when I get this aircraft to a VATSIM level and I can operate it like I do with the A320, because just remembering how to do it all is just awesome. I will continue to No, I'll never lose my checklists. I'll continue to use them because there's something more satisfying about that. You know, you get every single detail right and you don't go, oh, we forgot to arm this, or we forgot to put this figure in, you know what I mean? There is a holding point coming up, so I'm just going to start tapping the little brake button on here to gradually slow the aircraft down, nice and gentle. And we're going to hold at this holding point here instead of going to the next one. So let's come to a stop. Parking brake is on, and let's go to our before takeoff checklist. So parking brake is set, fuel flow to reset then rate. So that is up and then back down. Central fuel pumps as required, de-ice as required, cabin lights as required. Flight instruments check. I mean, by the look of it, everything's fine. I'm not quite sure if there's anything that we have to specifically press for that. Engine instruments check, that's on here. I'm going to press that as well just so we get a little bit more on there. It does say config on the fuel, so there is actually fuel in the center tanks. I do apologize, so we might as well put those central fuel pumps on. It'll say low pressure for a minute. That's probably why it's moaning at me for config. Takeoff data V1 and V2 is checked. That's fine by me. Okay, so we would request takeoff clearance at this point, and in terms of the lights, we would have the taxi lights off. We would set the transponder down here to TA and RA, which would be that one, and then we'll get our runway turn-off lights on, and we'll get our landing lights on. And I don't think there's anything else. TFC and clock, which we're going to push. TFC is this button here. That puts the little rings on there. I'm going to do that on the first officer's side as well, not that they need it. And then we're going to press clock. It's going to take the parking brake off. I said parking brake off. And then we're going to taxi on to the runway, everybody, as we're going to head out of Shannon over to Stansted. I love the noises that this thing makes when it spools up as well, and it's very, very fun. It does sound like you've got a window open, though. It's a mighty loud aircraft from the inside. Then again, I did turn the volume up recently because I've noticed in some of my videos the aircraft are too quiet, and this old big gob is way louder than them. This is one of my favourite bits, pulling onto the runway and seeing all the lights. Like I say, I've not got scenery here at Shannon, so it's not as pretty as it will be at other airports. However, that's the coolest bit. Okay, I think we're all good to go, so I'm not going to delay here. We're going to build it up to about 50% throttle. Let the engine stabilise for a minute. And then what I've learned is on the 737 there's a little screw here, and when you want to go to Toga, you just click that. Let's go. Listen to that. Airspeed's alive. And this aircraft calls out V1 and rotate for you, so I'm not going to do that. I think it also does 100 knots. No, it doesn't. 100 knots. Moving around quite a bit.
V1.
Rotate. Oh, a bit of a late rotation there, my bad. Okay, positive rate gear is coming up. And I have to click the lever now. There we go, gear is coming up. I'm going to click the autopilot on very early here. And now that the gear is up and out of the way, we're then going to put it into the off position. Some of you may remember that in the previous video that I did, I said that every time I right-clicked, or at least I mentioned that every time I right-clicked, something changed in terms of the managed speed down here. We didn't set the speed, did we? Oh no, we did. It's there. There was something changing every time I was right-clicking. That was to do with the mapping of the gear up switch on the Thrustmaster control stick on here. There's something with the fact that because in Boeing you've got on, off and up, and on this it's obviously up or down on the Airbus. But still, tidy departure I'd say, out of Shannon. And in a minute, once we've got past 3,500 feet, we'll then crank it all the way up to 35,000 feet. Let's just do it now. Lots of scrolling, lots of scrolling, lots of scrolling. And bang. There we go, to 35,000 feet. It's holding 185 knots for some reason, but I don't want it to do that. It does say in here, though, that it's got 250 knots next up, and then Mach 0.794. So once we get past Adaru, then it'll start to really climb us up. So let's go outside and enjoy the climb. How cool was that little transition there from the... oh, flaps up. Sorry. How cool was that little transition there between the cloud and then going into a little bit of clear air? The aircraft suddenly became super contrasty and then went back to not being. For some reason, she's not climbing to 35,000 feet at this point, and I don't quite know why. And I think if it's not doing it, you have to click... Oh, no. She's accelerating. Just got to give her time, it seems. I think it gets to the speed first and then it goes for the climb. It's a bit of a strange one like that. It's weird lighting in here right now. Whoa. We're flying basically directly towards the sun because we're heading east today. Strange amount of cloud here. You can see we're just going through a bunch of it right now. We'll break out of it at some point once we get to our climb. I think we're going to have to click level change. It's not doing it, is it? It knows that it's got a change in there though. So we're still on the departure, really, realistically. But it says above 3,500 feet there. Don't think there's a restriction at Abagu other than 250 knots. Initial climb clearance, it says 5,000 on there, so we should maybe have gone to 5,000 instead of 3.5. I'm going to click level change and we're going to go for it. And she's going to begin the climb now up to 35,000 feet for us. The aircraft will manage that from there. And yeah, hand off the stick. We're all good. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. That was beautiful, wasn't it? I think that calls for more beauty shots. These are beautiful conditions. We've just gone above 10,000 feet, so landing lights come off and also the fasten seatbelt signs go to auto. We're just going to... That's not the right thing, Chaz. We're going to go back to the checklist and have a look then. So, after takeoff checklist, we had a positive rate of climb. We brought the gear up. Auto brake went off. Telling you. Engine start switches go back to off. They're both in the middle now. The gear lever is into the off position. I remembered to do that. Runway turn off lights, yeah, they were definitely off as well. Cabin lights as required. Page 2, command A and B, which is obviously the autopilot engaged, that's fine. Altimeter push to standard, it is actually flashing at us down there, so we'll gain a lot more height. Below 10,000 feet, obviously 250 knots, and that's all good. Central fuel pumps as required, landing lights and fasten seatbelt signs off. Cruise and descent preparation we'll get into in a little bit, because if you look at the charts, you'll see that we still have quite a way to go. We're not even technically complete on our departure yet. So we're going to check where our top of descent is. We'll get this into plan. And we'll get it on a much wider scale than that. And then we'll go to the step button on here. And we'll check where the top of descent is. So top of decline should be at Avzac. That's actually moving. Top of descent is there just before Yorkie, which is that one. I was going to say we'll probably start getting things planned in by Yorkie, so maybe we get them, make sure that's done by Ruhun. I'm happy with that, you know, it makes you feel a lot better about it when you're on a checklist, so you don't miss anything. You know, sure, my timing isn't perfect, and I miss a few things there, but yeah, I'm happy. I like this aircraft a lot, you know, I really have learned to like it. I spend a lot of time looking at Ryanair 737s when I'm flying around Europe all over the place, so it's nice to be at the helm of one and learn another aircraft to add to something like the A320. By the way, there is my old flight plan. There was a previous one that I didn't actually complete and I didn't put it in the bin. I realised before it was still on my camera. Anyway, more beauty shot time. I never turned the APU off, did I? Okay, we're going into our cruise now, and our target speed is 0.79, so we need to get that cracking. We're getting to 30,000 feet now, so we've got to tell the aircraft to really crack on with it. Once it's completed that level change, though, I'm pretty sure VNAV's going to take care of all of that. The FMC is apparently unable, 250 knots. Yeah, that's fine. At BPK. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the aircraft is flat out. I mean, it's absolutely trying. It's definitely not as powerful as the Neo. It's really not got the same sort of kick. It's CFM 56 engines, I think, on the 737-800s. And they are very small-looking engines, but I don't know. It is what it is. That's what I enjoy, though, is the sort of performance difference between the aircraft. It's very, very different. I never realised you could do that. It just caught the corner of my eye. That makes life so much easier. Sun's out in front of us. I'm enjoying life in this 737. I like it. I'm nervous about the approach and the landing because I don't want to get anything wrong. It's just knowing when and how to get it down to the right altitude and the right course and so on. But I've got my checklist, so hopefully, as long as I know what button does what, we should be okay. We're coming up to 31,000 feet at the minute. I'm going to tell it to bring the speed down to where we are, basically. Maybe we can get a bit more of a tighter angle if we tell it to go a bit slower. We'll get that climb expedited slightly. Apparently there's a buffet up here at 35,000 feet. I mean, I can't see it anywhere, but I'm starving, to be honest with you, so I think someone's lying to me. Airspeed's worrying me a little bit, you know, because we're at like 5 degrees nose up and we're doing, well, obviously indicated 237 knots. We're actually accelerating now. We've reached our top of climb. But yeah, it was worrying me for a minute there that the speeds weren't very friendly. We've got about 50 miles to Ruhun, which is the waypoint where I wanted to get everything done by. So I'm going to start now just to make sure that everything's all proper. So we're going to go through our cruise and descent preparation to make sure that's all good. Engine instruments and monitor, yeah, they're there. Fuel quantity, check. We have 8.8 tons on board. We're still using the central tanks at this point, so that's fine. Lights as required. We're all good in terms of lights. We've got lots of those, thank you. Before top of descent, ATIS and airport information. So we need to go to our arrival, and we need to, I believe, go to index and then approach. Does it tell us actually what the winds are? It's telling us there if we want flaps 15 landing, we're doing 163 knots. Flaps 30, we can go to 154 knots. Descent winds request, I know that you can do that, so I'm going to request that now. Altimeter, we're going to be at 987 HPA. The winds are 170 at 8 currently, but where do I put that? Forecast uplink ready, load. It's going to put some winds and stuff in all of this. Okay. I'm happy with that. But I want to know how to put that in for the arrival, if you know what I mean. Okay, we'll come to that in a minute. Altimeter, radios, reset MCP altitude. Yeah, ready for the descent. So what's the altitude like on the charts on arrival? I remember we've got this mental spin back on ourselves, haven't we? Flight level 70, yeah. But then how do you get from there to that? Because this bit, what about this bit? Is it Laurel? Is there something at Laurel that we need to keep an eye on? It says Laurel, flight level 70. So what do we do about descending from there? Actual descent clearance will be as directed by ATC. Okay, well let's have a look at what height we intercept the ILS at. 2,500. So we'll get to 7,000 at Laurel. That's what we'll put in here. 7,000 in the box. So it'll start doing that when we get a top of descent, as long as VNAV is on. Before we get to Laurel, if we're at 7,000, as soon as we get to 7,000 basically, we'll then put it to 2,500 for when we intercept the ILS, and then we'll go from there. Because we've not got ATC today, obviously. So FMC approach speed, ref, yeah, we've got that. So VREF, we're going to go 163 knots. We'll go flaps 15, we'll have it slow today. So that's going to be 163. Localizer frequency, we need to get that set. 110.5, that goes in down here on this one. We'll get that in on there. Was that already in there? I'm not sure. ILS localizer course. I think that's also on the charts. Final approach course 222. Pretty sure you pop that in here. We probably should have gone the other way. I'm going to put that in both as well, just to play it safe. Descent is the next thing. So that is de-ice, landing altitude, radio altitude, and baro minimums, auto brake as required. We'll just go auto brake medium. We're going to use a lot of reverse thrust on this landing today. Altimeter set to local at transition altitude, which I think was 7,000, was it? Where does it tell us that? Well, we'll go for that 7,000. Once we get to 7,000 feet, then we'll put 2.5 in, and we'll also set the altimeter. And then, yeah, landing lights on and passenger signs on when we get below 10,000. So let's continue our cruise. Okay, we're just coming up on our top of descent now, so I'm excited to see whether the aircraft actually starts to descend on its own. I'm not going to touch anything, because this is the bit that I've struggled with this 737, because a lot of the time in the Airbus I have sort of done the descent, or I've clicked the altitude just before top of descent to make sure I stay below profile. I'm not going to touch a thing. We're literally just about to hit that green TD, and there it goes. It's calling me names, that's not very nice, but we're descending and I didn't touch it. That makes me so happy, you have no idea. It's such an amazing moment when stuff comes together like this. So we're on our descent now into Stansted. As we are descending, we need to look at the descent checklist. So de-ice as required, landing altitude check. We're going to just make sure that's up there. We've got it in at 550. We've got recall, I don't know what that is. It says 737-800 only as well. That scares the life out of me. Is it that? Don't know, not a clue. Radio altitude and baro minimums, we have those, which is 584, I think I said on the box. Sorry, 548. Auto brake as required. So auto brake today, we're going to go auto brake 2. So the aircraft is going to come to quite the stop, and once we go past transition altitude at 7,000 feet, we're going to reset the altimeter to local. So descent time, everybody. It's making a lovely bassy note right now. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear that, and this isn't a very bassy headset, and it is making a very good noise in my ears. So let's get down to Stansted. Just to show you how far we've come actually at this point, we've gone past Yorkie, we're going to Causey, then Cyric, Nigget, and then we're going to go left at Vaton into BPK. We're going to go around Heathrow, so we're going to get a nice view of that. Actually, we'll probably still be above the clouds by then. And then we obviously go into this horrible little turn thingy that we always have to do on the way into Stansted. And then we've got a nice tasty long runway at Stansted, which is also important because my landings aren't great, but as you saw in the previous video, I expected this thing to be able to land at Airbus A320neo speeds, and it really can't. You know, you're talking, what was it, 145 knots or something on the 154 knots actually, with 30 degrees of flaps. So even at flaps 15 you're doing 162 knots. It's a much faster landing, but that's why they use so much reverse thrust. The reverse thrust on these CFMs is great. It's satisfying and exciting to use as well, so I'm looking forward to that. We're descending as intended, so I'm a happy bunny. Don't have to click altitude intervene. I click level change on the way up. Still got to figure that bit out, but I think I'm getting there. Having the checklists is a good backup. I'm chuffed. Simple as that. Let's carry on. Right, we've just gone through 12,000 feet now. We're just going down to 11,700. I remember the aircraft told us earlier that it was unable to do 250 by BPK. That's this waypoint. And for some reason it's not slowing down yet. I think it will probably slow down soon once we get closer to 10,000 feet. But at 10,000 is when we're going to then put the landing lights on, and the seatbelt signs are going to come back on as well. So all of the no passengers that we have on board can stop running around like idiots. I'm feeling confident. We're going through, there you go, it's just wound off the throttle, and you can see, look, the requested speed that it's doing is coming down here. That's fine. Good plane. That bassy note is amazing. I really hope you can hear that as well as I can, because it sounds fantastic. What's next then? Below 10,000 feet, 250 knots, landing lights on, passenger signs on. That's all we need. I think we're going to be fine for this speed, you know, by BPK. I don't think the aircraft's got anything to worry about. After that, we need to go through the altimeter. We need to check that, which is obviously the standard pressure. We're going to do that at 7,000 feet. Localizer frequency is in, which is 110.5. And then we've got localizer course, which is check, 222 on each of those. Glide slope alive is when we bring the gear down. So we've still got a while till we do any of that, to be fair. Looks lovely, sounds lovely. Look at this route. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is change this down to 10 miles just so we've got a little bit more detail on it. Laurel, it wants us at 6,000 feet for some reason, so not too convinced that that's exactly what it should be, because I'm pretty sure the charts say 7,000. Yeah, Laurel, flight level 070. I'm just going to believe what the aircraft's got in it at the moment. Slowing down a lot more now. Pretty sure there's a restriction speed-wise here as well. Yes, look, 220 at BKY. 220 is just above the flap speed here, so we're not going to bring flaps in yet until we get a little bit closer. Okay, we're well into this little circuit now. I hope you're enjoying this video, by the way, and if you are, please don't forget to give the video a like and obviously subscribe to Chaz Draycott Media. I like to do these flights, and I will be doing them more and more often eventually, especially as I'm now learning this aircraft a lot more, and yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. I forgot to turn my landing lights off. Obviously, I'm still learning, so shut up. Like the video. And the seatbelt signs should come on as well. They're on auto, but I'm just going to make sure they're definitely on anyway. And we'll be beginning our turn in just a second to get down to 7,000 feet shortly. There is the turn. This aircraft loves a tight bank, to be fair. There is something somewhere to change how hard the aircraft banks, and I can't remember which one it is. There's something somewhere. It does want us at 6,000, so what it was the interception of the ILS again? Was it 2,500 feet? Yeah, 2,500 feet, so I'm going to bug 2,500 up in there. It's cool, this. Very cool. You can see on the iPad here, it actually just draws a straight line between all the waypoints, and you can see just how much the aircraft has to plan to curve it out. We're nearly out of fuel in that centre tank as well, so it's going to use the outer tanks very shortly. Those ones are on anyway, so they're ready to feed it fuel once it changes over. Next up is approach arm and then gear down, but we're going to wait until we get to about this point here when we're going to approach arm. Once the glide slope is alive, that's when we bring the gear down. We're going to go for flaps 15 landing today, so that is going to give us approach VREF not selected, right, so we're going to go for that one. Yeah. Okay, right, it knows now. It knows that's what we want. Let's pick a stand for when we land, shall we? There's an exciting little thing to do. 72. Stand 72. We're going to get into. Aircraft's powering up again a little bit now. We'll also go back on the charts and check where we're going to taxi. I mean, it's very easy. You just get on to hotel. We'll go on at Alpha Juliet because that's where a lot of stuff departing tends to go. So we'll go hotel and then Alpha Juliet. 72 via hotel Alpha Juliet. Let's see where we vacate. I reckon it'll be Lima Romeo, but with enough reverse thrust it could be November Romeo. Anyway, altitude is now below 5,000 feet. And we're getting up to this turn, so I'm going to try and get the approach armed maybe just before this little circle here. Zoom in on it a bit more. About here. You can see, look, the aircraft is ready to reduce the speed down now, so it knows what we're doing here. It's going to start to reduce the speed, which I'm a big fan of. So approach is armed. That's next on the checklist. Once the glide slope's alive, the gear will come down. Once the speed comes down as well, we're going to notch the flaps once on my throttle here on the quadrant, and then I'm going to do it manually by clicking the actual lever over there in the aircraft. Starting our turn now on to final. I keep forgetting where I'm at. A second autopilot is supposed to be armed once we have intercepted the ILS, once it's established. Engine start switches go to continuous, and then landing flaps it says set, so I think that just means set it to the amount that we're landing at. Okay, now the speed that it wants is coming down, look, to 19, 18. Okay, so we're going to put our first notch of flaps in. And the aircraft can then reduce the speed very gradually. We're going to go onto this course here to CF22, and then we're hopefully going to intercept the ILS. So the diamond is moving around a little bit now. These purple triangles are what we want to follow as well. So it's got the localizer, there you go, it's got it. So localizer captured, single CH, we've got that. Glide slope is ready to go in, which is the white diamond. Is that saying we're above it at the moment, or is that saying we're below it? Ooh. Or is that purple diamond going to be the glide slope? Are we above it? Are we above the glide slope? Is that what we've done wrong here? Because that's a white diamond. There's the runway. Are we still descending? We are not. Let's give it a sec, see what it does. Oh, I think we've missed out here. I don't think I armed that quickly enough, you know. Approach is armed, isn't it? Yeah. Well, now what? Well, that's annoying, isn't it? Okay. Well, let's try and do some manual flying here, shall we? Let's go up to 3,500 feet. Let's go to a level change. Go to 240 knots. We'll fly overhead. We'll keep the flaps where they are because we're doing 190 knots. That's a shame. But maybe I just underestimated the amount of run that we had. I thought it was the purple things that we were going for, not the white ones. So we're going to go up to 240 knots. Flaps are going to come up now. And we're going to go around. So we're going to be manually trying to do this now. I'm not flying it by hand manually, but we're just going to go through the process. Well, now we've gone over, what we'll do is we'll pop Buki into there. And we'll tell it to LNAV to that. It's going to turn us to Buki now, BKY. Let's see if we can get the arrival back in. Surrey 1 Lima. ILS runway 22 via Laurel. And then if we go to legs, cruise altitude change to 18, that's fine. So once we go to Buki, we then need to choose what waypoint is going to come after that, okay? You with me? This probably isn't the right procedure, but we want that one, whatever that is there. That one we need to put after this. No? Can't we do that? DO66K needs to go there. Awesome. I did a good. It's probably not the right procedure, but I did a good. Maybe we can do this actually. So that's 2,500. So maybe we can do 210 at 2,500. Yes. So then can we tell it to do VNAV now? Yes. Right, I'm learning. I'm learning, everyone. So we're going to be at 3,500 feet, and it will get down to 2,500 by then. It's going to gradually bring the speed down. You can see that on here, look. So it goes 240, which is what we told it to do at the moment, and then it'll gradually bring it down. 167 at flaps 15. I'm going to arm approach sooner rather than later, you know, because I don't want to miss that glide slope, and I feel very silly. However, I'm quite happy with how I've managed that. No hand flying needed at all there. And again, I know some of you will be screaming at me saying it's not the right procedure, that's not what you should have done. That's fine, but I'm offline at the moment, and I'm learning how to, you know, use the systems. Why is the aircraft continually spinning, though? What are you doing? So there's me saying I'm quite pleased that I've managed that. Why are we flying at the airport? I mean, we're not. The airport's over on the right.
A few inches later.
I've just done a bit of a sharp turn and turned us around. It should be going that waypoint. It should be going here. Is it because I clicked approach? It went onto the approach? I don't know. Why is it climbing like that? Oh, Christ. Well, it's gone to pot, everyone. It was going so well. Oh. Chaz didn't have the autopilot on, did he? Let's go straight to CF22. It wants 240 knots again, but I don't want it to do 240 knots. It says there 210 knots at 2,500 feet. Is that just because it's doing the turn or what? So first off, let's just recap. So first off, we missed the glide slope because I activated the approach too late. I think the second time, me clicking approach again, or still being in an approach, it went immediately for it. There's the glide slope, so it's above us. I'm going to arm the approach. Because now we're below the glide slope. We're coming up to a decel point here, so maybe that's going to do it. Keep your fingers crossed, everybody. You may know something about this aircraft that I don't, and I apologise if I'm getting something wrong. But I'm trying to figure this out on the spot. This is not stuff that's written on this checklist. Yeah, that speed's coming down now, look. Okay, good. Out of the cloud we go. Airport is just over there. Glide slope should be coming in. It does have it lined up, so we just need it to meet there on that diamond. Glide slope 249, 248. Yes, please. Is that going to change? We want gear down. No, not up. We want it down. Yes, there we go. It's got the glide slope. Gear's coming down. Speed is coming down. Going to go for our first notch of flaps. Okay. This is better. Okay, we're going to tell it for 167. And we're going to get those flaps down to 15. So we're going to go flaps 5, flaps 10. And then we need to let the speed drop a bit more. Oh, no. No. I don't know what happened then, why it suddenly took the flaps away from me. Yeah, why is it taking flaps away? Oh, I don't know. I need to arm speed brake. I'm trying to bring that speed down.
Approaching minimums.
Yep, that's fine.
Minimums.
Yep, continue. I'm happy. Got a bit of a crosswind of 12 knots. We're going to hit 167. There you go, 168. 169. Yeah, it's floating us there. We're on 15 degrees of flaps. Okay.
500.
Charlie D is going to take the autopilot off.
400.
And we're going to glide her in. The aircraft is managing all the throttles and stuff for me, based on what I do. Yes, that's fine.
Too low. Terrain.
Shut up.
Too low. Terrain.
Why do you always moan at me? I don't care.
Too low. Terrain.
We're not.
Too low. Terrain.
We're not.
Too low.
We're doing just
terrain.
fine.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
I'll figure that out another day.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. 20. 10.
Wow, big float. Oh, dearie me. Reverse is coming on. Maybe a little bit too hard on the reverses. Ah. The auto brake's disarmed. Stop, you big pig. Christ. I don't know whether it was supposed to come off the throttle itself or whether it was ever going to, but it seemed to just re-accelerate. Wow. I went a bit too hard on the reverses there. I think I upset them. It says speed brake, do not arm. Let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of flaps. Well, that was not perfect, I know. We got it stopped. But yeah, I'm not quite sure why that landing was more ropey than any of my other landings I've done before. I'm just letting it roll. What's that say? Flaps transit. Well, are they not completely off? That was rough. We got it on the ground though. We still arrived. That's the good news. We're going to stand 7-2 and we're going via Hotel Alpha and Juliet. So we'll get taxiing. After landing checklist, transponder needs to be off. So we're going to do that. Flaps are retracted. Speed brake down. Landing lights off. We want our taxi light on. You want strobe lights off. To be fair, we never actually put that on to strobe and steady. Cabin lights as required, anti-ice. APU, start and check, and then run. So we want to put that on and on. Probe heat wants to come off. What else? Engine start switches need to be in the off position. They already are. That's fine. Oh, wasn't I supposed to do something with that on the way in? Engine start switches were supposed to be into continuous on the way down, so that's my mistake. But at least I know that now, and this is the thing, I can look at these checklists and I know what I've not done or what I've missed out on, for example. Auto brake is off, I've already done that. Runway turn off lights off, and then APU, we need to put the APU gen on. I'm not guaranteeing that that is on yet, so we'll just carry on with our taxi to the gate. Yeah, there was an auto brake light came up there as soon as I started pressing the wheel brakes, so I'm not sure if that comes on automatically, whether there was something else I was supposed to do to arm that, because auto to me means it just does it itself. So I was wondering whether it was going to do that when we touched down. Still, we're on the ground, nothing's damaged, I think, other than my pride a little bit. But again, in these videos, I want to give you an honest view on how this goes. I'm not going to pretend it's all fine and dandy. I'm going to have cut out the horrendous turn I did to get the aircraft back on course over London because it was not professional. But I think other than that, it went alright. I was really pleased with how I managed the sort of return to course, but I think because I armed the approach early, it just sort of tried to turn at the airport and sort of intercept the ILS. That's taxiway Papa over to our right, and the next one is Alpha, so we're going to be turning onto here. I uninstalled the scenery that I used to have for Stansted, actually. For some reason it had a weird glitch to it where the buildings would start sort of floating up in the air for some reason. I'm not quite sure what that was all about. There's been a few sceneries that I've had that have, since a few updates to Microsoft Flight Simulator, have become broken. And, you know, the buildings aren't the right altitude, or the taxiways are really bumpy, and I don't quite get why that's happened. So sometimes I do use the standard scenery, unfortunately. I do have GSX here, but I'm not sure if that's going to work for us. No? Okay, so it doesn't know what they are. That's fine. We're going right out to this one on the end here. So we're going to turn out to the right. It's one of the remote stands, I believe. I'm pretty sure it is in the real world as well. Obviously, this isn't proper Stansted scenery, so this isn't going to look great. I do apologise, but it is what it is. Then we've got stand 73, and the next one should be 72. So we don't want 72L, we want 72 right in the middle. Okay. Gonna go left here. And then we'll just try and find the yellow line to line up with it. That's this one. Or is it? Is it the one to our left? Is there a line to our left? Is there a line to our left? No, it's fine. We're just going to park here. There seems to be no yellow line that goes all this way, so we'll just roll it a sec. We need to turn our taxi lights off as we turn into the gate, and then we're going to bring it to a stop. Okay, the parking and shutdown checklist. So parking brakes are set, engine fuel control levers off, starting with engine number 2 and then number 1. I made a mistake because I need to put the APU gen on. Forgot about that, didn't I? That was something I should have done a while ago. Parking brakes on then. Engine fuel control levers on. Ground contact establish. Ground operations as required on the FMC. Passenger signs to off. APU bleed air on. Anti-collision light off. Fuel pumps off. That's all of these except for that one, because that's for the APU. Left aft fuel pump on. That's the next thing on here. Anti-ice off. Electric hydraulic pumps off. Isolation valve to open. Yep, that is open. Doesn't look like it's in the middle for some reason. Flight directors off. You shut up. Electrical power established. That's fine. Exterior lights as required. Doors to open. Okay. That is going to be it for me in this one, everybody. I'm really sorry about that dodgy landing. I will definitely improve on that, and I will make things better in the future. But like I say, still learning this PMDG 737. I really like this aircraft. I've flown on a lot of them, and it's definitely something I'm going to continue to improve. Let's get that out from behind my big head, shall we? Not much else to say, really, other than I'm sorry that it was a bit of a muck-up at the end, but I always maintain that I'm giving you an honest view of this and how it all works. So we'll be flying the aircraft again very soon. We'll continue to use the same checklists. Thanks again to Fly UK Aero for those, because they really are very helpful, I must say. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video above everything else, though. You know, I do this because I enjoy it. I hope you enjoy watching me do it. And yeah, we'll carry on doing this as it goes. So thanks very much for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.